G'day, this is Rowan here, Equity Solar Brokers. Today we're making a video about why in New Zealand we can't size batteries like the Aussies do. Because over there it's totally different. And I'm going to give you a why, but look at these solar panels. We're in Rangiora and Rangiora, and wow, golly gosh, they're everywhere, you know, solar. I thought I saw some more over here. But hey, look, that's a nice looking roof. That one there, that's a big commercial roof, but we're going to use that. We're going to use that because it's perfect for demonstrating the reality of most roofs in New Zealand. And by that, I mean, not many people have a perfect roof, right? Not many people have a perfect roof. Let's have some fun. Let's 3D model that. Just because I love to do a good 3D model. It's really exciting. So we'll just let the world see our secrets. Right, come here. Come here. I'm gonna bring my face back. We're gonna snip this nice high resolution image. Yep, there we go. We got it, and we are gonna save that to our desktop. Here we go. Boom, 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 and let's wire it up. Bottom left of there to the top right of this green thing. All right, little green thing to yeah. I got a visual on that. All right. Watch the image quality just fall apart when we go to 3D. Come on, mate. Coverage not available. All right, no ground image. Yep. Boof, boof. There we go. Cool, yeah, because I think the reality is, like, most people's roofs aren't perfectly north-facing, you know? And so let's have a look and see how big battery, you know, what size battery you'd typically need if you have a typical roof. And so let me just bring my face back. Feeling a bit naked here. Feeling a little bit alone. There we go. Now I'm hanging out with myself. So, all right. So look, we've scaled up this image here. If you're watching this video, you may be looking at commercial solar. Maybe you have a residential home, but chances are you haven't got the world's most perfect north roof, because who does, right? Most people have a roof that's, you know, sort of close to north, but it's off by a bit. And that's sort of what we're looking at here. So there we go. And look, I know this is a commercial roof, so it's not exactly drawn to scale, but look, we've got a roof here, right? And we've got some north. We've got some west, right? Whatever. So let's talk about what size battery do most homes need and why. And what I might do just quickly is take you through what they do in Aussie, right? So in Aussie, you know, you got these big solar systems, and you might have some on the east and some on the north, right? Just, you know, kind of typical, right? Not everyone has the perfect roof. So here's 24 panels, and I know that this is a giant commercial building, but it's just easy for me to speak to the point. Now, in Australia, the distinction is that their usage is a bit like this. So you go monthly consumption, and in Aussie, they're using, you know, 1,400 kilowatt hours in summer, and then it very slowly ramps down, right, to something quite low. Like a lot of those Aussie homes, they use hardly any power in winter. And that's because it's, you know, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, so they don't heat and they don't cool. Much like our autumn seasons in New Zealand, right? In like sometimes I see the lowest usage is in September, October. So in Australia, you're looking at usage that, you know, is really high in summer, and that just happens to be when there's a lot of production. So, man, I got that perfect, didn't I? How's this? That, my friends, is called experience. But how's this? So you've got, in Australia, right, they've got, you know, the grey is the consumption and the yellow is the generation. And so in Australia, you know, yes, the government's subsidising it, but even without the subsidy, big batteries make sense because all of the energy goes into the battery, and then they can use all of that energy because their consumption basically matches their generation, right? And they're not selling a whole bunch of energy to the grid because they've got a giant battery and it makes sense to have one. However, in New Zealand, and you're probably already with me here, in New Zealand it's totally inverse. We use about maybe 800 in Jan, and then it ramps up, right? It ramps up quite quickly, especially down in Rangiora, right? Like it's freezing. So let's say, you know, something like this, 1450, 1350, 1200, 1000, 850. And look, I know I'm generalizing here, but this is your typical home across most of New Zealand. So we'll go and recalculate that. And okay, cool. So pretty much on the money there as well in terms of the usage. So look at this, right? So we've got this is the New Zealand reality. See, in summer we generate more than we need, and in winter we don't generate enough. And so back to the point of the video, how do you size a battery in New Zealand? Because you can't just go huge and expect great results, right? So if I can get this box off my screen, there we go. We're gonna extrapolate this data here. Keep my face up there, bring this down. So hear me out. So we know that we've got the generation, right, which is that. And we know we've got the consumption. But I'm going to draw another line on the screen. And this is so well scripted because I do this every day, by the way, with my clients in our online consultation. The line on the screen that I'm going to draw is how much of your power use is actually during the day. And again, I'm generalizing, but how much? And the line's kind of like this. It's just a straight line. Someone's knocking on my door. Hang on. Yes, Finn, can I come see you later? I'm back now. It's, what is it, 9 o'clock. My 8-year-old is on his Game Boy. But yeah, so back to this, right? In summertime, like if you think about Jan, and you know, forgive the generalizing, but this is a YouTube video, not a consultation, right? So in Jan, after someone gets solar, right, their hot water's probably heating during the day. Hot water cylinders, they stay hot well into the evening, right? So most of the hot water's heating during the day. Obviously in New Zealand summer, you've got sunshine from 7 a.m. till 8, 9, 10 p.m. sometimes. The south, the lower you go. And so in summertime, you think between the actual sunshine time, most of our power is during the day, right? And so the question is like, after the sun goes down in summer, you personally, Mr. or Mrs., how much power do you use after the sun goes down in summer? And it's probably not that much, probably about this much, right? Hence the black line, how much of your energy is during the day. But in winter, here, yeah, no doubt, most of your energy is in the evening, right? Like, sun goes down or really loses its strength at about 4 o'clock in those worst months. And then we're heating the house all the way through to the next day until like 10 a.m. where maybe the heaters might go off for 4 or 5 hours. And so in terms of the power use, you know, most of this is in the evening. So then the question is, if this is true for most homes, what size battery do most homes need? Now remember, I've drawn up a 24 panel system here, which is about a 10.8, 11, maybe a 12 kilowatt. It depends on the size of the panels and stuff. But, you know, it's not a small system. And in the case here, well, you'd want a battery for like, you know, trying to power these times. That's really the truth of it. And in winter, you're probably not really going to charge a battery. I mean, you might charge it a little bit, but not much, right? You might charge a battery typically through the winter months. Let's say these 4. You might charge a battery, I don't know, 5 kilowatt hours a day on average. So you probably, like, and maybe it's a little bit more, but like, you know, think about the generation and how much your power is actually during the day. So, okay, so maybe a 5, or conservatively you could say a 10. 10 would be perfect. And then in summer, you're like, well, there's this weird sort of like spring and autumn. That's actually a nice looking mountain, isn't it? It looks like Mount Taranaki. There's this weird, moment in the shoulder seasons, but the reality is the distance between, what is that, 17? There's about 17. That's a 1-7. It's a bit hard to write, but 1-7, right? This line. And what, 29? There's a 29 there. No, that's 29, 33. Okay, so 17 to 33. So the distance here is probably maybe 15 kilowatt hours. So if you need 5 in winter and you need 15 in summer, then yeah, maybe a 10 or a 15. But anyway, this video is about how do you size a battery, right? And even on a 10 kilowatt hour system, you only need a 10 or a 15 kilowatt hour battery. But hold your horses, Rowan. Often clients are like, well, why don't I just generate a hell of a lot more, right? And that's where it comes back to like the whole winter thing, right? So we could increase the number of panels by, I don't know, most clients would say, well, let's put some on the west, right? So chuck another 12 panels, right? Now we've got 36 panels. And we're starting to move into that realm of like super expensive solar system. Do I want to spend $40,000, $50,000 on a giant battery and a giant system? But actually, even with 36 panels, would you need a massively bigger battery? Because again, it's the same story. Like, look at this. Okay, I've got this white box on my screen. Try to get rid of that. 36 panels. Come on. Get off my screen. Come on. I can't get it off my screen. But try. So same story. I mean, look at winter, right? How much are you going to charge a battery with 36 panels, right? If the daytime power use is sort of here. Same story. Like, you might charge a 10 kilowatt hour battery, but you probably wouldn't need a 15. And then same exercise here. So what more panels in New Zealand do? Well, hang on. This is all on the premise of the not perfect roof, because 9 out of 10 homes don't have a perfect north roof, right? They're east-west, or something in between. Like I see a lot of homes where, they might have a huge east or a huge west roof, but not so much on the north. And so in the scenario where half or more than half of your panels are facing east or west, you're just not going to have a huge amount of winter generation. And so the case for a huge battery is lessened. And I'm not telling you not to get a huge battery. I'm just trying to make sure you get a battery that actually gets charged by solar. Because if it doesn't get charged, that means it's not getting discharged. And then you're kind of just wasting your money. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I guess the exception is, though, if you've got a giant north-facing roof, maybe you can get a bigger battery, right? But it's got to be a great pitch. Like, even at 20 degrees, it's not that good. So, the further south you get, the worse it gets in terms of winter generation on a north-facing roof. So, and by the way, this is why it's so important to make sure that the solar company you're working with is actually reading your power bills and putting in your usage according to what's actually happening. Because in my experience, most solar companies just generalize it, right? They're just like, yeah, use 10,000 a year, generate 10,000 a year. You use 40% of the solar and you're going to save heaps, right? Sign here. Our product's the best, sign here. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can afford to do a good job of the system design, right? Now, if we can, as a broker, and our commission's tiny relative to the $30,000 system. But yeah, so sorry, that was just a rant because I was waiting for the software to update. But like, look at this. So 36 panels all on north. Still, generation is still kind of average in winter. You know. So the only way to really get a big battery and really like charge it up in winter and seriously reduce those winter power bills with a battery, the only time it really makes sense is if you have a huge, like really steep roof, like 35 degrees, right? And no shading, right? Because we've got a little bit of shading here from this bad boy. Let's have a look. Oh. No, maybe not. Oh, look at the panels. So I don't know why that happened. They weren't like that before. Golly gosh. Where's the elevation? Okay, let's just draw them again. Right. Panels. Make sure they are on the roof. What's this? 33 panels. There we go. They're on the roof now. So you want to make sure there's no shading, eh? That's a given, right? But yeah, look at this. So the building, like the house, it's not a house, but the structure itself is shielding the roof. But if the structure was 35 degrees, like the roof is with the panels, then you can imagine that even though the panels are facing north, you know, the morning's like wiped out, right? It's wiped out in winter until like 11 a.m. 10 a.m. it's pretty average, right? But yeah, so in terms of like winter generation, you want winter generation, and in order to make the most of a big battery, you need a steep roof, and it needs to be all north facing. And this one's not 100% north facing, but we'll look at the difference, eh? That'll be fun. So now, see the winter generation, it's a lot more than it was before. Like if you look at that curve, so this is, you know, a 35 degree, mostly north roof. If it was an east-west roof, the generation would be like this. Terrible, eh? Or something in between. Yeah. There you go. Nice. So last thing we want to check then is what if it's due north? Actually, let's just write that June number down. So June is 29.4 kilowatt hours of generation. Right, let's just make this a dead north. It mostly is. Mostly is. What did I say? 29.4. Okay. So let's see how that changes things. It's going to be interesting. I don't actually know. I mean, I do. I've got the gut feeling, right? 29.3. Okay, interesting. So that is interesting. Let's rotate it right around, eh? Oh, it's not my friend now. West actually performs really well in Canterbury, by the way. Much better than East. It's crazy. So look at this. This is like Northwest. We've got 24. Yeah, look at that. 24 in June. Isn't that awesome? And if we East it, woo, spin around. Broke it. Okay. It's 33, 33 panels. Let's draw 33 panels up. Was it 24.3 before? I think it was 24.3 before. And East tends to be worse, which is interesting. But I do trust Open Solar. 20.5. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? So I think that's because maybe because of a fog. Clouds in the morning, I don't know, but yeah, by the way, north and west is awesome. Let's do the extremes. Let's go. Ooh, I broke it. Okay, we'll go hard east. All right, hard east. Is this how's that? Yeah, sweet. All right, so we'll check out hard east. 15. See how so we were at 20,000 kilowatt hours of annual generation before. Once we go hard east or hard west, the generation drops massively. But check this out. So 14.5 kilowatt hours of generation on hard east in June. Same exercise. If we flip it over here, let's have a look. Okay, it's actually off by a bit. The east is actually up, like it's probably 3 degrees north of east, and the west is like 3 degrees south of west. So this will be really interesting. What did we have? Was it 14 kilowatt hours on slightly north of east? Look at west, 15.9. So the west, 15.9. The west is outperforming the east, even though it's marginally south, right? Like if I, yeah. You can see that there. We'll do it one more time. Let's what happens if I press 0? There you go, rotation 0. That's dead north. Okay, cool. So now it's not lying. So west performing better than east. And the reason for this is because, again, if you're trying to charge your battery, you want to make sure your roof is going to generate well enough in winter for that battery. So west, dead west at 35 degrees, generating 17.3. And east, flipping it over. So we want to beat 17.3. It doesn't look like dead north to me, but the rotation was at 0 in the software. So 17.3. East is probably 15, maybe 14. 13. Oh, so there we have it, folks. All right. You just can't have a huge battery in New Zealand and expect to charge it up all the way in winter. Most people say to me, Rowan, we want to get solar so we can charge the battery in winter and use that to heat our homes. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. Unless maybe you have a hell of a lot of panels and a beautiful dead north 30 plus degree roof. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying don't get a battery. I'm just saying don't get a giant one. Start with a small battery and see how it goes. All right. Cheers. See you later.